Hi, folks. Steve Urban here. Today's episode of the Riderflex podcast is sponsored by Marketing 360. My good friend JB Kellogg and his team do such a fantastic job for us and so many other companies. Marketing 360 is the number one platform for small business, and it's everything you need to grow your business. If you need marketing support, I really encourage you to contact them at marketing360.com/Riderflex, and we'll add that link to the description of this episode for easy reference. On today's episode of the Riderflex podcast, we have guest Anthony Franco. He's a serial entrepreneur. He's built and sold several companies. Currently the founder and CEO of mcSquares. Among other things, they make premium reusable whiteboard stickers. They can be found at mcsquares.com, and most of their products can be purchased on Amazon as well. Really enjoyed my conversation with Anthony, and I think you will too. Just want to make sure. How's my hair? Is it good?
Is that the joke you tell every time before you start?
How'd you know? Did you talk to somebody? Anthony Franco on the Riderflex podcast. How you doing, Anthony?
Good morning.
Good morning. Are you in Denver or somewhere in Colorado?
So I'm north of Denver, working out of my home office right now, trying to still social distance a little bit.
Gotcha. And by the way, I'm in northern Colorado. I'm up near Loveland. How about you?
Windsor.
Okay, so I'll go.
I could probably throw a rock and hit you.
Oh, well, yeah. I'm actually, so I say Loveland, but I'm actually in Johnstown, which is just
okay.
Little, you probably know right where that's at if you live in Windsor.
Yep.
Wow, I didn't know we were that close. We'll have to get together for beers after this or something.
That sounds good.
All right. I actually, by the way, we're recording this on June 2nd, 2020. For those people listening to this maybe a year from now, we're on the backside of the virus situation, I think, anyway. But bars and restaurants starting to open. Speaking of having a beer together, there's a little tavern right here in Johnstown. And I actually last Friday got to go. They opened. Buddy of mine called. He's like, "Oh my God, Cassidy's is open. Meet me down there for a beer." I was like, "What? Really? Wow, yeah, let's go." That was the first time.
How do you drink a beer through a mask?
Well, they didn't make you do it at this place. There are everybody's got different rules floating around right now, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, I was just sitting there thinking, wow, like this is the first time I've been around somebody else other than my wife in a public setting, having a beer at a table since like early March.
Yeah.
It was good.
Amazing
anyway,
what you take for granted now.
It really is.
Granted then. Yeah.
It really is. So for the listeners, why don't you just give us, a personal overview? The Anthony Franco. Hey, where'd you grow up? Tell us a little bit about your parents, maybe where you went to school. Give us the personal stuff.
Yeah. So I went to school in near LA, in a town called Whittier. Let's see. I was I barely graduated high school. Actually, I was the computer nerd that let all of my other studies kind of go by the wayside while I was in the computer lab just coding away. Graduated, meandered a little bit, started doing some computer consulting work for friends and family, and that's
didn't go to school, didn't go to college.
I went for a semester. It just wasn't for me. Gotcha. Did a little consulting, and then that kind of grew, and required me to essentially, when you become an entrepreneur, and you have to kind of grow. In order to be successful, you have to grow out of that computer nerd, wallflower personality. And people started to become more interesting to me than code, and they're a lot harder to figure out, more complex puzzles.
Right,
and so, grew up in a broken family, latchkey kid. I don't even know if that's a thing anymore, but back when I was a kid, that was a term.
Right.
and
lived with your mom or your dad, or who'd you stay with?
lived with my mom early on, but through high school lived with my dad and my stepmom and brothers and sisters. And
Well,
yeah,
how many siblings?
I am the oldest of four, one
Oh,
brother and two sisters.
and
Yeah.
you're telling me you were an introvert in high school?
Oh yeah. Like well, I don't think you grow out of being an introvert. Like I'm still an introvert.
You don't. Yeah,
Uh,
I wouldn't have thought that based on
yeah,
watching some of
a
the.
lot of people tell me that. Look, the definition of introvert and extrovert isn't whether or not that person's social. It's how does that person recharge.
Ooh.
So if you're a person that recharges around other people, you're an extrovert. If you're a person that recharges with alone time, you're an introvert. And
Okay.
definitely for me, I recharge. Recharge alone. Yeah,
Is that
if I'm around people for too long, I'm just exhausted.
now living in Colorado? Is that recharge alone time like in the mountains, or is it just what does that look like?
Uh, I'm I'm a kind of a homebody, so it's being here at home, sitting on a couch, binge watching for an hour. Like that, I'll do that, or I work a lot in front of a screen, so I'm alone quite a bit. Just crunching through numbers or designing a product or doing something like that. Yeah.
And what's home look like for you? Is this by yourself? Or you have a family?
Oh yeah. Married. I have this is my second marriage. I have two little ones, a 4-year-old and a 6-year-old. Or, I'm sorry, a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old daughter.
It's busy.
Um,
Busy at your house.
yeah, very very busy. Yeah.
Are they going to walk
I
in?
think
Are
my
they going
wife is ready for me to leave, though. She's ready for me to get back into the office.
right?
Uh, uh, but yeah, it's been kind of bittersweet. It's I know a lot of crazy stuff's going on in the world, but it's also been great for me to be able to spend this extra time with my daughters and
Yeah.
make pancakes for the 4-year-old in the morning. And yeah,
Have they
it's been an interesting time.
have they crashed any of your Zoom video meetings? Like, have they come in the background here and be like, "Hey, what's up,
Yeah,
Dad?"
yeah, I'm casual about it though. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have every once in a while. I don't do anything so formal that I'm embarrassed by it. It's just I'll
Right.
put them on my lap and keep going.
I actually think it's becoming more commonplace. I think it's getting a little relaxed. I think people just understand, like, hey, I'm doing a Zoom video from home. Like my cat might jump in the background or whatever, right? I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
that's just part of it. Okay, thanks for sharing some of that personal. So, all right, so you started doing computer stuff, and you started consulting, started getting some gigs, started doing your own thing. Walk us into a couple of. I mean, hell, you've built and sold so many businesses. I can't even keep up. But
It's just
walk us
four.
walk us through kind of a few of those. The short story of them, and then walk us into mcSquared, obviously.
Yeah. So as briefly as I can, first company I founded was a consulting firm, and we did. Back then, the term was rich internet applications for small, mid-sized companies.
Okay,
That company was acquired by and started out in LA. Out of I used to work for Warner Brothers feature post production.
I saw that.
And then started that consulting firm with a couple of friends. We were acquired by a incubator called Fast Ideas here in Colorado, born out of Match Logic. It was kind of an acqui-hire. They acquired us for our talent, and we were building some technology for them.
Okay.
Worked with them for a bit, and then started another software company that was a marketing automation company with the same group of guys. That was Piper Software, and that was acquired pre-revenue by a marketing firm, by a public marketing firm in Seattle. Started another tech firm. You may know of it. So when we moved out in Loveland into Loveland in the year 2000, we called up Comcast for high-speed internet access, and we got laughed at. They didn't have it out here. So we started a wireless internet service provider that named it Skybeam, and Skybeam sold to a roll-up. And then as Skybeam and Piper Software were being sold, I started another consulting firm that turned out to be the largest user experience agency on the planet. We actually defined the space. It was called Effective UI, and we were acquired by the largest holding firm of marketing agencies. So Ogilvy and Gray and J. Walter Thompson were all sister companies of ours when we were acquired. And Effective UI allowed me to run. So I did a lot of like executive workshops and brainstorming meetings and design meetings, and discovered that that little square whiteboards were the best way to get people's ideas out into a meeting room. And that's how mcSquares was born. We started in prototyping in 2013, 2014, really hit the market in 2016, and and been growing from there.
So why don't you give us an overview? If you were doing a pitch, right? If you were doing a VC pitch for mcSquares, can you give us that 3 to 4 minute speech, whatever that looks like, the elevator pitch?
Yeah. So essentially, the idea is this. So chalkboards, whiteboards have been around for centuries. And there's a reason why when people, if you're in a meeting or in a classroom, the real work gets done when you pick up the dry erase marker. Like that's when the ideas really come to life. And so we're building essentially the next generation of dry erase tools for those environments. We want to be a part of, we're not curing cancer. We're not launching rockets to Mars, but we're in the room when those things happen. And we want to make those brainstorming sessions, those learning environments a lot more collaborative. And so we're building tools around that. And then we have this kind of, I would call it an outlier product family, which we call stickies, which are that and something else. So stickies are essentially, I talked about it in Shark Tank, they're eco-friendly replacements for paper sticky notes. So they help with collaboration, but they're also good just to stick on your fridge to leave your loved one notes and label flower containers in your pantry, and put reminders for yourself on your monitors. It's kind of funny because I was, I went from a really cool job in working on feature production at Warner Brothers into, I was then a computer nerd for a while, but that became cool in my company at Effective. And then now I'm, people that know me from there are like, you're selling whiteboards? Like, what? How did that happen?
But really, you're an entrepreneur. I mean, really, you're just,
I start stuff.
Yeah, right. I mean, was that the plan? Did you know early on, like, wow, I want to start, build, and sell companies, or it just kind of happened for you as it moved along?
I'm unemployable. So it's a mechanism of survival. I'm a terrible employee. So the only way I can earn a living is by being my own boss, or working with partners that allow me to do what I'm strong at and then balance me out.
It sounds like your strength is vision and strategy and getting things started, and maybe
I struggle with that term vision. Are you familiar with the entrepreneurial operating system, the EOS? A book called Traction.
No, tell us.
So it's a great book. Actually, we run mcSquares on it. It's a way to operationalize startups.
Okay.
Great little book. And so they identify two really important people in the founding of a company, and that is, one is called the visionary, which is the person that sees the product, is the product person, and maps the product out, thinks about the company in visionary terms, and the other is the integrator, and that is the person that operationalizes it. And so I definitely test on that visionary side. I just don't, the term doesn't resonate. It's not logical enough for me, but it doesn't sink in well. It makes me sound cooler than I am, for sure. I'm just the design guy. That's how I think about it.
And the exits that you had, is it because you're just starving for something new and you get bored on something, or you just saw an opportunity to exit?
Boredom. Yeah, it's not boredom. It's something else. I'm really good at new. So solving new problems, creating new categories, and building. And there is a point at which a company, that creative energy becomes destructive.
Mm.
And
That's good. That's good for the listeners right there. Yeah, go ahead. Yep, go down that path.
So I recognize when the companies that I'm in start to tilt into, it needs management and operational infrastructure. Typically when that is it's middle management. When you start hiring layers of management, you need to be more methodical about how you run things through the company. And I'm not terrific at that. And nor do I like it. I don't like managing managers of managers. And so it's more when a company becomes less about building and more about incremental operational efficiencies and growth that it's better suited for somebody else to run it. And that's the time at which I recognize I need to exit.
Well, hey, kudos that you recognize that. I mean, do you know how many entrepreneurs and founders I've met that don't know when to get out of the way, that don't know when to, when it's either outgrown their skill set or they don't know when to bring on an operator to help them. In fact, the majority don't know that. And so I really respect the fact that you see that clearly, you watch for it, you look for it, you make moves based on it. Great. Because that's a big problem with startups, a huge problem. The founders start something, they think they know.
It's a big ego hit. It's a big ego hit. Yeah.
I was just about to go there. It's an ego thing. Like they just can't get out of their own way. And most of the time it's ego. And if they would just realize like, wow, they started something, they had great vision, they got it going. Awesome job. Now, every once in a while, a strategy vision person is also a great day-to-day operator, but most of the time not. And most of the time it's two different skill sets. And so I appreciate the fact that you recognize that. So, by the way, tell the listeners, so you were recently on Shark Tank, right? For mcSquares.
Yeah.
I watch that show on a regular basis. So tell us about the experience, man. Give the listeners a little taste of behind the scenes.
Yeah, what a roller coaster ride. There is the moment that sticks out most in my head is that moment. You don't see it on camera, but you see those closed doors and those doors open, and you see the entrepreneur walk through. So staring at those doors on the backside is a really interesting moment. You hear this, from the background. This guy going 10, 9, 8, waiting for the doors to open, and you're like, "This is gonna happen!" Like, holy cow!
And you had not met or seen or talked to them before that moment. I figured
no. Reality TV gets a bad rap for a reason. But I have to say, for the Shark Tank, they cut out some pieces. I was there for almost an hour pitching to the Sharks, so they definitely cut some stuff out.
But it's not like you have
an hour-long segment with me would have been boring anyway. So they cut it out for entertainment, but they did. But it was really, I have to say, it was true to what the pitch was.
I see.
And one of the things that they're very clear on is you can't know the Sharks. You can't have had any interaction with them before you come on set.
I see. Okay.
So they want that first impression to strike them, and they want to capture it. So
Is there,
I didn't
is
meet
there,
any of them beforehand.
how about afterwards? Is there like this post meeting where like, okay, man, we shook hands on this verbal deal. Now let's start all the due diligence and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. So it's starting. Yeah. It's not immediate. It takes time.
Okay.
Months and months and months. In fact, we still haven't closed our deal with Kevin,
I
and
see.
our company's a lot different than when I filmed. So the terms have changed. I've been able to negotiate better terms for us that Kevin's been fine with.
Gotcha.
So it's
So it is the understanding is that, hey, we may have a little verbal jockeying for the show, but we're not signing documents today, right? I mean, is that the reality?
No, I mean,
Yeah.
think of it from the investor's perspective.
Yeah.
Who's gonna write a $300,000 check after an hour of talking to a founder? You have to know if you have to dig deep and know it takes a lot of time for them to uncover truth in a company.
Yeah, and one of the things I always wondered was, do they see financials and documents and everything beforehand? But what you're telling me is no, and so all that happens afterwards. Okay, great.
Yeah,
great, very, very, very good. Do you get to hang out with these guys and go to dinner with them afterwards?
Nope.
None of that.
Nope.
None of that.
No. No. I don't know if it's like the person that leaned in on mine was Kevin O'Leary, but other sharks may handle it different ways. I don't know. I've interacted with anybody else other than Kevin and Kevin's team.
Well, congratulations on getting, a verbal offer from him. I think it was 300 grand or something like that.
Yeah. 300K. Yep.
Will that be your biggest, if that goes through, will that be the biggest raise so far, or?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you talk about how many rounds you've had or anything with cash raise?
So I am by far the biggest investor in the company.
Okay.
And I've raised a little bit of cash from angel investors here in Colorado. Rockies Venture Club and Coca-Cola Capital and Denver Angels have all leaned in on the company.
Good for you.
And
in fact, I think we have a friend over at Rocky Ventures Club, and that's how we got connected.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And then I've done a small Reg CF round, regulation crowdfunding round.
Okay.
Hoping to launch one more in July. We'll see. That lots of question marks around that. So
okay. So
definitely, this is the first company where I have raised outside capital. All the others were bootstrapped.
Really? Okay. First experience raising outside cash. Okay.
Yeah.
Didn't know that. And can you tell us how much you've put in and raised so far total, or no?
So total, it's close to $2 million in the company.
Okay. And you aren't pre-revenue. I mean, you do have revenue. You have sales right now. Can you talk to us about your projected sales this year?
So we're projecting between 3 and 4 million in revenue this year.
Nice.
And we could be profitable, but I'm trying to grow. I want to grow it big, so we're pouring every dollar and then some back into sales and marketing and product development and IP. So
I see.
So I'm targeting. I want to grow this to eight-figure revenues before we exit.
The 3 million that you're going to hit this year, how much of that is Amazon? I'm just curious. What percentage?
Half of it will be Amazon. A little less than half of it will be Amazon. Yeah.
Okay.
Amazon's a beast. They're very complicated. Great as a buyer, as a consumer, I love them. As a seller, not so much.
By the way, all this product, or a lot of this product, is you got patents around this stuff. I mean, can people copy you? Talk to me about the competition.
Yeah. So competition's always a thing, even if you have patents. So a lot of the products we have are patented or patent pending.
Okay.
That doesn't prevent copycats from coming out. We manufacture everything ourselves in Denver.
Nice.
So we have a competitive advantage there for being able to be nimble that most companies don't, especially if you're outsourcing your manufacturing. And I think the true value that we're building in the company is the brand itself and the breadth of products that we have. So we're not a single product company. We are a bunch of products that suit different and various needs. So if you come to our website, you'll find something that matters to you.
I'm sure that was an attraction for Mr. Wonderful, right? The fact that you have the brand and multiple
Yeah,
items.
and it was part of the reason why the other sharks like Lori and Barbara and Rohan didn't lean in, because it was a little too much for the tank to look at our breadth of product line. They were like, "Whoa, this is a lot," and so looking back, if I had gone in with just like our Stickies product, talked about just that, I probably would have gotten offers from everybody. But because I went in with all our depth of products, it was overwhelming, which is a problem for us from a marketing perspective. It's like describing what we do to customers that are hitting our website is a complicated task because we have so many different SKUs.
I would agree with that. I mean, obviously I did a bunch of homework on you before the podcast. And at first my immediate impression was, oh, it's those things that like they replace sticky notes and I can stick them somewhere and I can write stuff on them. And then as I started going deeper, I'm like, oh, wait a minute. I got a bunch of other stuff on here too.
Right.
But I think that's attractive for investors. I think a line of products, obviously, right? I mean, you can scale up to a much bigger number.
I don't know if I have a value judgment one way or the other. Like single product companies can do really well as well.
And they're simpler to run.
That is true.
How many employees do you have right now?
Gosh, we're at 12 now.
So what do you have, like a little sales, marketing, and accounting office up in Northern Colorado, and then the manufacturing is all outsourced in Denver? Is that the deal? No,
we do all the manufacturing ourselves, so it's not outsourced.
Okay. Oh, I see.
Yeah. So we have a shop in Denver and everything runs out of there. Okay. Sales and marketing right now are working from home, but we're all missing each other. Like we can't wait to get back into the office. Right. We're actually really close in grabbing a new space that's going to be bigger so we can expand. Just north of Denver in Thornton.
I was going to say driving from where you're at in Windsor to Denver, that's a pain.
That's not that bad. I grew up in LA, so a 45-minute commute is nothing. Yeah.
By the way, growing up in LA, how'd you pick Windsor? How'd that happen?
So long road to Windsor. We wound up here because my wife's family lives in Loveland.
I see.
And I used to live in Broomfield, and we were looking to relocate a little closer to my wife's family when we had our kids. So
I see.
Windsor it was.
I see. How'd you meet your wife?
So in Loveland, there's a restaurant called The Poorhouse.
I know right where it's. I've been there several times.
I started The Poorhouse.
That was yours? You were a founder?
Yeah, that was mine. It was a hobby business. As I was going through my divorce, I started that business to kind of distract me from others' life's woes. And so went through my divorce and was still running it as a hobby again. And my wife and her sister walked in the front door, and I just happened to be playing host and sat them and bought them. They looked like they were a very serious conversation, and bought them a beer battered deep fried chocolate chip cookie, and the rest is kind of history.
I love that. By the way, you're the only guy I've ever met that said, hey, while I was going through a divorce, which is a scary, messy, painful thing for most people, while I was doing that, I decided to start a restaurant, which, by the way, has a 90% failure rate for most people that try to start that.
Yeah. It was truly a place to spend my time, so I wasn't sitting at home crying.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And you exited that too?
Yeah, sold it to the current owner, who was my head cook, Chris. Really? He's an awesome dude. Yeah.
Wow. You have done
doing really well.
You have done so many things, and you've had so many exits. Can you give? There's a lot of people that listen to our show, a lot of aspiring entrepreneurs, or maybe an entrepreneur that's tried something and failed. If you had to give some general advice for any entrepreneurs listening right now, what are some things you would tell them about getting started and how you were successful early? What are a few pieces of advice you'd share?
So, look, on paper, there isn't a startup that should succeed. On paper, you have no shot at winning. And I know, and the stats prove that out too, right?
Right.
So,
Absolutely.
but there is something that your company has that your competitors don't, and that's you. And and for the same reason why I don't like being in big companies, I'm not good in. Generally speaking, people like me aren't good in because we are disruptive. And so the only shot we have at being successful is being disruptive in our own thing. So I guess my advice would be, your strength is the fact that you're not big. Your strength is the fact that you disrupt and that you have grit and that you have an appetite for risk. And so don't believe that doing it the way a big company does is the right way. It's not the right way. And the people that you bring on will tell you that you're doing it wrong. You're doing it wrong. If you were a big company, you're probably going to be doing it right because you're a small company, because you're caring about different things. So that's usually the first piece of advice I give entrepreneurs when they're asking me as they're starting out. It's like, yeah, be very careful about doing things right or being told to do things right. Because the companies that do things right aren't doing what you're doing, or shouldn't be anyway.
What is the biggest risk you've taken, or maybe the scariest moment? Can you describe, all these things you've started? Is there
the scariest moment in my career was the moment before the Shark Tank doors opened. That's easy. So look, you're either on Shark Tank, you're either the hero, the fool, or the villain. And you don't know how you're going to come across on camera until it's edited and you see the episode.
I thought you were great. I thought you were great.
So, well, my friends told me that I came across like myself. So that's as good as you can hope for.
That really is.
So, you're wondering, the biggest risk is being played the fool. Like that was a huge risk, very scary.
And all the money you've put in so far, right? Because I think you've put more money into this than you did anything else personally. Sounds like.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Manufacturing
is expensive. It's expensive.
And how'd your wife, how did she react when you said, "Hey, I'm gonna put a ton of our money into this thing"?
My wife is risk adverse. It drives her nuts. Drives her nuts.
Really?
There's definite trust there, but it also goes against her grain. So we have conversations about it every once in a while.
It's pretty good. How about this? Couple of pieces of advice for early / first time CEOs. Somebody that had an idea, they started a company, poof, all of a sudden they have 10 employees and they're like, oh shit, I got 10 employees and now I'm a CEO and I have no training around that whatsoever.
Yeah. So this is such personal advice. I wouldn't even know where to begin. It's because it's so individual. It's basically right. What your strengths are. I guess the best piece of advice is really know yourself.
That's good.
Really know yourself and be very open to being, let me back up. In your company, you matter the least.
That's good.
And so if you're in it for feeling good about the decisions you make and being right, you're going to fail. So the number one failure of most companies is the entrepreneur believing that they're right.
Yeah, I agree.
And so you have to be wrong way more than you're right. So it's an ego thing again. Your ego is going to cause you failure. So be very comfortable with having your pride damaged constantly.
I like that.
That's the best piece of like very generic advice.
I like that. Another topic, on the Riderflex podcast, we have a lot of job interviewing tips and career advice. And you've now hired a bunch of people for several different companies. Any tips for candidates interviewing for a job at mcSquares? What do you look for? What are you looking for in the interview, and what kind of tips would you give people?
I'm sorry, but I hate interview tips. Like, be yourself. Like, that's it.
I like that. Yourself. I like that. That is a tip.
Yeah, but
don't fake it. Don't
try to be somebody. If you try to be the person you think they want, you're going to hate the job.
Love it.
You're not going to do well on the job.
Love it. Love it. Great advice. Great advice. So when you interview people now, it's just kind of a flow. You don't have like a checklist or anything in front of you, I'm guessing.
It's a team effort. Kristen, who runs marketing for us, has like a process, and she has things that she wants people to ask, which is very, very valuable. Ian, who runs operations, is also kind of process oriented. I get a feel for somebody, and I view my job as trying to talk people out of taking the job. Like, because we're a startup, it's risky, right? Taking the job is risky. And warning people what the job looks like. Mm-hmm. And if they still want to work for us, I'm like, that's kind of good. That's kind of like good enough for me. Skills matter, but culture fit and attitude matter more.
I could not agree more. What is your culture? What is the company culture in a sentence or two?
We all assume good intentions from one another, and tend to hire people that are optimistic and like people.
Okay. All right. Very good. Sounds good. I got a couple of more wrap-up questions here for you. I know we're almost out of time. There's two more wrap-ups. So you've been congratulations, by the way, on your career so far and the companies.
I'm not over, so it doesn't feel congratulations. It's not done. I don't feel done yet. So congratulations aren't appropriate.
I love your energy and the fact that you have this entrepreneurial bug and spirit about you that's contagious. I love that. One of the biggest things you said on the interview so far is that, hey, I know what I'm good at, and I know what I'm not good at, and I know when to get out of the way and let other people do things. I love that about your personality and style, and I'm sure that's a huge reason why you've been successful with your teams. Couple of summary questions here. If you could call the 18-year-old Anthony coming out of that LA area high school and tell him anything today, what would you tell him?
So it's funny, as you get older, you become more comfortable in your own skin. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I'd ruin it for him. Like, I don't know if I'd spoil any of it. Like, a lot of the things that I've learned, I've had to learn through experience, not through advice. So I don't know if I would have listened to myself. Okay. I guess I would have the only thing I would have said is, you're headed in the right direction. Like, it's the journey, I'm in it for the journey. Like, I don't know if I'm giving you a lame answer, but I don't know what I would tell myself, because all the really bad mistakes I made taught me something. Mm-hmm. And so I don't know if I would try to steer myself clear of those, because they were important lessons to learn.
Well, one of the things you just touched on there is it's about the journey. I'm the same. I've met so many people that think, they'll say, well, if I can just get to here, if I can just get this, if I can just accomplish that, if I can get to this point, or if I can get, and they think once they get to this mark that then, they're done, or life's going to be great, or it's all going to be perfect. And It never is. And if they would just realize that it is about the journey, and when you reach certain marks, you're just moving on down the path, and it's the journey overall. I couldn't agree more. And I think that's good advice.
There is no plateau at which somebody is satisfied.
I agree.
There is no, it's also good advice for when you're hiring people that it was a frustration of my former business partner, because we're still really good friends. He would be very frustrated with, look, I've hired you for this. You're really good at this. Why are you trying to grow? Like, why aren't you just happy in this thing that you're in? And that's a really good lesson for everybody. Like, nobody is happy with the stat. Well, I shouldn't say nobody.
Most people, right?
Most people are not, especially entrepreneurial people. You're not happy with the status quo. You get to a place and you're like, okay, this isn't what I thought it was. I need to continue to grow. And most people are like that.
I agree.
So it's not just about the journey. It's like recognizing the fact that you're never going to be satisfied. And so try to enjoy it all along the way. Yeah.
In fact, when I meet those people that are just perfectly content and never want to move down the path, I'm always amazed by them. There's not very many, but I do meet them. One more question. If you had to put your core purpose in life now at this stage in your life, if you had to put your core purpose into a sentence or two, and I asked you to push that away from your wife and two daughters, and so let's set them aside and just assume that they are the core purpose. Aside from that, how would you describe Anthony's core purpose in life right now?
Building cool stuff.
Building
cool. That's companies, products, jobs. My core purpose is I'm a builder.
Isn't it? Don't you get a huge emotional reward? Isn't it just great to know that you sold that restaurant to your chef, and you built these other companies that put employees to work and allowed other people to buy those companies? I mean, is that the biggest reward for you, is seeing that you've produced these things that made a difference in people's lives? I mean, that's got to be huge.
I've never thought about it on those terms. Yeah.
But you have, my friend, just so you know, you're, as you're building these things, you're creating opportunities for people that are changing their lives and helping the economy. So kudos, my friend. Congrats.
Yeah, okay.
Anthony, thank you so much for being on the Riderflex podcast. I appreciate it. Thanks for sharing your story.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
And your advice. The Riderflex podcast features entrepreneurs, business executives, and the stories behind how they got there, as well as daily tips on career advice and job interviews. Our show can be heard just about anywhere these days, but you can visit riderflex.com and click on the podcast page to hear all the previous episodes and learn more about the recruiting and consulting services we provide. Contact us at the email address info@riderflex.com or 888-964-5876. Thanks so much for listening, and if you enjoy our show, please be sure to subscribe to our channel and like the episodes.